Welcome to the Dream Power Show, where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weisman.
Welcome to the Dream Power Show. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weisman, the Dream Coach. I'm so happy to bring back one of my favorite dream experts, Dr. Dream herself, Kelly Sullivan Walden. Kelly has been helping people awaken to the power of dreams for over 2 decades, and she's written so many books on dreams, I've lost count, including the best selling I Had the Strangest Dream and It's All in Your Dreams. And she's come out with several Dream Oracle card decks, including the Carter winning Hero's Journey Dream Oracle. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Kelly.
This is so exciting, and I feel I couldn't be more honored to be with you today.
I wanted to bring you on today because recently you took part in a very unusual dream group experiment. So, can you tell us about it?
So I was invited to be a dream expert. They called me the Dream Doctor, not Dr. Dream like I normally go by. It was for the Twitch network. And I had never heard of the Twitch network before this invitation. And since then, I've been hearing nothing but Twitch, Twitch, Twitch everywhere. It's the new thing. So the Twitch network has a premiere network. So it's Twitch Presents, and they cultivate and they curate and they create some content for their users. Most of the users are gamers, but it's now open to all kinds of people doing all kinds of things. Really, it doesn't exclude anyone, but primarily it's gamers. But the powers that be behind the scenes of Twitch, they all come from the gaming world, and they started noticing that some of their gamers were videotaping themselves all day and all night. And they noticed that there was a spike in views while people were sleeping, playing their games. And they noticed, wow, people are interested in seeing what happens when people sleep. And it would seem like what a boring thing to do, but they were noticing a trend in, and so people that were wanting to get more views were keeping their camera on while they slept. And so that was kind of the beginning of the idea. And this all started in the midst of the pandemic, when there started to be an uptick in people posting in social media how they were remembering dreams and how dreams were becoming more and more vivid, it was seemingly more vivid. So they put together what they wanted to do, a show that actually was deliberately focused on watching people sleep. And while watching people sleep, let's also find out what they're dreaming about. And while we're doing that, let's put them in an experimental space where we can actually control the environment. And then, so it became this really big thing, this sleep and dream experiment that took place physically in England, in London, so that the people here, because we have opposite sleep schedules, people here in the US could be watching people sleep over there while they're awake.
So, they were doing the experiment. So, what was your part in it?
So my part was to be the dream doctor on that was a part of the experiment and observing the experiment. Picture a white room with a bed and a person sleeping, and every once in a while they would start to experiment with sight, sound, with smells. So they would pump in the scent of strawberries, and they would notice the time, and they would see if the dreamer was reacting. And we were trying to see if we could influence somebody's dream by what kind of odors are in the room. And sometimes the odor, they would pump in the scent of rotten eggs. And then they would change the colors, like different lights. They would have it be a bright red, bright orange, bright purple, to see if those colors in the room would affect sleep and dreams. And then they started to put in sounds, like the sounds of a cat, the sounds of traffic, and then very bizarre disco, like random sounds of like the city. And then they started to get really crazy, and they started to bring in from intermittently people dressed up in very strange costumes, like dressed up like a horse, dressed up like like, oh god, what were some of, just, I mean, like an alien. They had hazmat suits because it's COVID. They had to be covered up anyway to be in close proximity. And then they would do strange things in the room to see if what they were doing was affecting the dreamer. And really, we could call this whole thing an experiment in dream interference. What happens when you, or sleep interference, sleep and dream interference? What happens when people are deliberately trying to influence somebody else's sleep and dreams? Does it work? So that was the question. And then we have some answers to that.
So, Kelly, you saw these dreamers in this very unusual setting.
Yeah.
They're given all sorts of external influences while they were sleeping. So, tell me what the results were.
I'll tell you some of the things that we already expected, because there had already been some scientific research done on smells and colors and dreams, and it seemed that our experiment backed these things up. For example, people might be interested to know that there was a really popular study done out of Mannheim, Germany, several years ago, that said that the smells in our dream zone absolutely affect our dreams. So, and this stands to reason. If there's a sweet smell, it will tend to help us have sweet dreams. Unpleasant smells will tend to influence unpleasant dreams. And that seemed to be the case with our dreamers. Also, interestingly, the colors red, orange, purple. Actually, purple is a surprise, because I think a lot of people associate purple with violet and being kind of a high vibrational color, but those are colors that seem to be disruptive to sleep, whereas colors that are most enhancing to sweet sleep and sweet dreams are neutral colors, beige, earth tones. So staying away from bright colors in your dream zone and in your sleep zone. So those are some things that we discovered. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that, I could understand smells being something that could affect you because, you can breathe, you're breathing while you're sleeping, but then when you're sleeping, your eyes are closed. So how do
Correct.
colors affect?
Right. So we're talking about the moments like when you do open your eyes, you might see whatever visually is in your sleep zone. As we learned in Dream Life Coach training with Marie Diamond, are the visuals around us absolutely affect our sleep and affect our dreams, and only because of those moments when our eyes are awake, when we do see, because sometimes we will wake up and take a look, and whatever the last thing we look at as we're sleeping will have an impact. So while we're sleeping, though, you're right, while our eyes are closed, it seems like it doesn't really matter, unless the color is bright and it's going to be disturbing. Because as a takeaway for your viewers and your listeners, the most ideal dream state and sleep state is very womb-like, very dark, as much as possible, having the curtains that block out all the sunlight. That tends to be most conducive, and sounds that are consistent and not jarring. So you can even have pleasant sounds of the ocean or forest, but if it's not consistent, it can wake you up. It can actually be jarring. So it's the name of the game is consistency, like a white noise that is like an ocean sound that doesn't stop, that's not going to be like crashing waves and then peace. It's like the notion is to have it be consistent. So we noticed in this sleep experiment with sounds that were jarring, you could see the spike in their heart rate every time the sound changed. Whether it was a consistent city sound and all of a sudden quiet, that would trigger something. So consistency is the key to a good night's sleep and to sweet dreams. One more thing that is kind of common knowledge before going in. There was research done on people hearing noises as they slept, and especially hearing different names. So for example, while you're sleeping, so I could read out of a name book thousands of names to you, Debbie, while you sleep. And the only names that you'll tend to remember or tend to dream about will be your own name, your kid's name, or your husband's name. That's about it. Most of the other names, I'm going to be whispering them all in your ear as you sleep, but most of them will just kind of go into the slush pile, like not necessary. But all of a sudden you hear your own name or your dog's name or your kid's name or your husband's name. All of a sudden you're alert, and those you will tend to dream about those things. So similarly, this is what happened in our sleep and dream study. There was um dreamer 2, subject 002. She had been, as it turned out later, really, really missing being out in Piccadilly Circus with her friends. That was where she would go on the weekends and during the weeknights with her friends, and she'd been missing that. So she dreamt in the midst of our dream experiment there was a point where we blared in the sounds of the city. During that time, she dreamt about being at Piccadilly Circus and being and having a really pleasant dream about being with her friends and being out. So the sounds related to what she already was thinking about, what she was already feeling. So it seemed to trigger what was already kind of stirred up in her. It didn't provoke something different, too different. So this brings up a couple different things.
Yeah.
There are most of what we sort for when we're awake or asleep is an affirmation of what we already know, is a continuation of the storyline that we're already living. So that is the majority of our dream content, no matter how we're influenced, is going to keep us inside the story that we're already telling ourselves.
Tell me about the conclusion you want to tell me about.
Okay, so this has really nothing to do with this experiment, although it kind of lends itself to this. So I interviewed someone not that long ago who actually worked for NASA, and who is very intuitive dreamer, and at a very high level. And if you've ever seen the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, he was one of the characters that movie was based on. So somebody who uses their psychic abilities to help on a governmental level. And he said, so this will first be very terrifying, but there's a solution. He said, if we were aware as a species of the amount of sleep and dream interference that is attempting to happen to us already, we would be shocked. We would be terrified. We would feel so vulnerable. Companies are wanting to figure out what's in our dreams, figure out what's in our minds so that they can market to us, so they can sell to us, but also so that they can control us. So that energy that is going on out there. And that sounds like, okay, this is like a Black Mirror episode. This is horrible. So the little cute experiment that we were doing on Twitch was really kind of part of, in a way, something that I think is much bigger. And the solution, because I was talking to this gentleman, and I said, my God, well, then how do we survive this? And he said, the only way to really survive the whole notion of being interfered with by anyone is we have no choice but to become enlightened. If we take our spiritual growth, development, unfoldment seriously, then we can't be messed with. If we become more fearful, then we become more porous, more easily accessible to anyone that would want to interfere us. I mean, think about advertising. Most advertising preys on our fears. Are you not skinny enough, not pretty enough, not blah, blah, blah enough? Well, then you need to buy this. But if we were enlightened and we already felt whole and complete, we wouldn't be so receptive and so susceptible to those things. So to me, the good news is that if we all truly seek to grow our own light, to grow our own self-awareness, to grow our own connection with God, with whatever God means to us, then we actually can be immune to these influences. Then we can chart our own lives. We can be the directors of our own dream. We can then have the life that we choose to co-create with each other, and we don't have to live in fear. We can live actually joyous, beautiful lives. So to me, dream work is where it's at, and this is how we can grow more quickly.
Of course, that's the absolute truth. And if anybody even wanted to consider that, the pandemic has been a gift to us because it's given us the time to slow down so we can get within ourselves.
Yes.
discover all that we already have in us that we may not even realize we have, but it's there all the time. We just have to do it.
Yes.
How can people find out more about you and your work?
They can go to my website, which is ihadthestrangestdream.com. It's also kellysullivanwalden.com. And on my website, you can receive a free snooze meditation that is designed to help you get a better night's sleep, and that's for free. And also, there's a new app that's out. Have you seen the Hero's Journey app, Debbie? Yeah. So it's a Hero's Journey Dream app, and that's available on wherever your app store is. It doesn't matter what kind of phone you have. So the Hero's Journey Dream app. And let me just show one little quick thingy. This is a new product. It's the Awaken Dreamer Oracle. So they can get this. All of this will be available on my website or on Amazon.
We've been speaking all about dreams with Dr. Dream herself, Kelly Sullivan Walden. We'll be right back with our next guest. My guest, Edie Weinstein, is all about getting people to live full and satisfying lives, especially those people who've had to overcome traumas and other unpleasant issues to get there. Edie is known as the Hug Lady and the Bliss Mistress, and has been speaking and writing about wellness and mental health for decades. She's the author of several works, including The Bliss Mistress Guide to Transforming the Ordinary into the Extraordinary. And I'm so happy she's joining us. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Edie.
Thank you. This is exciting. You were talking about dreams. That's one of my most favorite ways of processing life. I've found, and as I'm sure you know, dreams are kind of a spillover from our day, the things that are going on, and that every aspect of the dream is part of the dreamer. So you might want to ask yourself, what do you order off the menu? Do you have to have what's specifically offered, or can you say, oh no, I really want to do this? So in the dream, you're the menu, you're the food, you're the wedding venue, you're the paper, all that stuff. So I have totally bizarre dreams, even more now, since the pandemic has been going on than ever before. So there are times when I'm really glad to wake up.
Well, tell me, have your COVID dreams been unpleasant dreams, or have you had happy dreams as well?
Both. A lot of them have been about Nazis chasing me, about hiding, about getting lost. In the very beginning, I had one of the first COVID dream I had. No, I don't have COVID, by the way, but in the time of COVID. One of the first dreams I had, I was in China. I have never been to China before and really don't have an interest in going. But there was a man there that didn't have a mask on, and he was bringing people together to celebrate, and nobody had masks on. I said, oh, that must mean we're going to get through this. Okay. Ultimately, okay. And back then, most of us thought, oh yeah, 2 weeks quarantine, everything will be fine. And some of us are still, while we're not totally on lockdown, we're still separating ourselves physically from other people. We're still wearing masks. We're still doing a lot of hand washing. Our lives have, I can't say ours, but my life in many ways has shrunk, but it's also gotten broader. And I'll explain about that in a minute. But that was my first dream. And then a dream that came after that, and this ties in with my work as Hug Mobster, which is also what I'm called, that I dreamed that people could hug again. And in this dream, people were hugging back to back, or they were hugging front to back, like spooning. But we weren't yet hugging this way. And I thought, okay, that's hopeful. So as my dreams, as the time has worn on and my dreams have gotten more intense, I do lucid dreaming, where I say, okay, if I'm not really, thrilled with the idea of being chased by Nazis, I'm going to wake up, or I'm going to turn around and face them, which is what I did in some of the dreams. And, I use my dreams as fodder for everything that I do. Like, okay, what's this telling me?
As I said at the beginning, you're known as the Hug Lady or the Hug Mobster.
Mm-hmm.
What does the Hug Lady do when she's not allowed to hug?
I've written on that topic, and I just spoke at an interfaith community I'm part of, and it was called "What's a Hugger to Do When a Hugger Can't Hug?" A little bit of background so people know where that name came from. Valentine's Day weekend 2014, I brought a group of friends to 30th Street Station, which is a big train station in Philadelphia, for a free hugs flash mob. And I wanted people to understand that Valentine's Day is not just one day of the year, and that love isn't just something we celebrate between couples. It's for everybody. So there were a dozen of us that came, and at 12 o'clock, we unleashed ourselves on 30th Street Station, and we walked around with free hug signs. And we asked people if they'd like hugs. And it's all by consent. We didn't do any kamikaze, swoop by hugs with anybody. They had to say yes in order for us to hug them. And I estimate that within the hour's time that we did it, we hugged a few hundred people. The one that stands out to me is a gentleman who approached us and said he was an Iraq war vet and that he was the only survivor of his platoon and he had survivor's guilt. He had thought about ending his life. And he said, until I met you people, can I join you? So of course we were crying, excuse me, and we gave him his free hug sign. He was off to the races. And my thought was, wow, hugs save lives. I didn't realize how poignant that statement was till 5 months later, when on the way home from the gym, I had a heart attack. I was 55 years old. I've been going to the gym 5 or 6 times a week, eating what I thought was a pretty healthy diet, but I was working 12 to 14-hour days as a therapist in an outpatient drug and alcohol rehab, sleeping maybe 5 or 6 hours a night, working also as a journalist, a minister, a speaker. All of those things were happening, and I was busy giving out, but not taking a whole lot in. So right after the heart attack, as I was doing cardiac rehab, I thought, I'm going to, walk through my little town of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, which is in Bucks County, about an hour outside of Philly. And I said, why don't I combine the hugging with the walking? Because hugs are heart friendly, not just cardiac friendly, or not just emotionally heart friendly, but cardiac friendly as well. And friends started calling us Hug Mobsters, like flash mob, hug mob. And I said, oh, mobsters, guns, drugs. I don't think so. I said, but what about Hug Mobsters armed with love? So one of our friends is an artist, and he was one of the people that was there originally. He drew, I forgot to bring it out with me here, but he drew a little heart with hands, and then the Hug Mobsters armed with love words on there. And then another friend commissioned another local artist to make me signs that I carry around that says Hug Mobsters armed with love.
How do you deal with the loss of that connection?
Well, like a lot of people, I live alone. I have wonderful, loving friends and family, but for the first 11 weeks, I did not touch another human being. If you can imagine that, somebody who's incredibly tactile, who not only hugs friends and family, but strangers on the street, and all of a sudden it was like, nothing. And it was like being in a vacuum. Now, I'm not prone to anxiety or depression, but as a result of that experience, I started feeling that. And I thought, is this what some of my clients are like, going through? Because I'm a therapist as well. And I said, all right, I need to be able to find a way to connect that may not involve touch at the moment. So I had, I did Zoom calls with people. I would text, different friends to stay in touch with them, like literally emotionally staying in touch with them. But to handle the physical aspect of lack of touch, I would hug pillows. I would put a heating pad on. What else would I do? Self-massage, Reiki. For those who don't know, it's an energy healing modality. What else? Oh, teddy bears. I'd snuggle with teddy bears. I'd hug trees. I would, when I would take a shower, I would like really feel the lather, be very mindful of it, put on lotion, those kind of things.
And Edie, we were talking about hugging, and I think it just shows the need for that kind of that physical connection that we probably took for granted before this pandemic got to us.
Big, people have skin hunger, which is just as important to me as food hunger, because skin is our single largest organ. So when people are deprived of nurturing touch by consent, they fail to thrive. Just like babies, if they're not given enough love and attention, adults do too. Among people that are socially isolated, even before this, there's higher rates of depression, anxiety, suicidality, addiction. So hugs are not a cure-all, but they certainly go a long way to help people get through all of that.
I wanted to get into that because since, we're for the large degree not able to have that connection, it's led to a lot of people being prone to depression or,
Mhm.
having the loneliness get to them. So
Right.
what suggestions do you have for them to, regain a sense of connection, regain that feel?
Well, first of all, I encourage them to stay in touch however they can with the people in their lives. I remember when this all started was around Passover. So some of my friends gathered together and we did a Zoom Seder. So, people have been having um, brunch and dinner together online. People have been having dates online. So activities that you would normally do can be done through technology as well. It's not the same, but it's pretty close. One of the other things that I did prior to, as a friend of mine says, in the before times, was a workshop called Cuddle Party, and that's excuse me, a workshop for adults that focuses on boundary setting, communication, and safe, nurturing, non-sexual platonic touch by consent. So I was doing them at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. And what people will do is get together in PJs, sweats or yoga clothes, blankets on the floor, pillows, teddy bears, and there'd be a whole workshop around nurturing touch. And I had to stop that. I've been doing it since 2005, I think. Yeah. So when I started doing them. So for a few months, I was doing virtual cuddle parties, which may sound bizarre because couldn't touch anybody. But we did self massage, hugging, we did meditations, we did communication and boundary setting exercises around the concept of touch. And it wasn't specifically about the touch that appealed to people. It was, I see you. I'm not here in my own little cave, because a lot of the people that came to it live alone, or they have, if they're in a relationship with somebody, that their partner might be in a high risk job, so they didn't see each other. So that's one way to stay in contact. Um, like a lot of spiritual services are now online. So if you belong to a spiritual community, you can go to a service, whether it's a church, a synagogue, a temple, a mosque. You can pray with other people from a distance. And the cool thing about it is you don't have to get dressed, you don't have to put shoes on. You go in your PJs if you want. So that way people know they are not alone. Because the reality is, this is something the entire world is going through together.
So, but if you are still feeling that, sense of, loss,
Mhm.
aside from being on, some sort of social connection, what else could somebody do?
I visit friends, like I have my dear friend, my 86-year-old mentor, Dr. Yvonne Kay, lives alone, and we have our front porch visits. I go over there, and I sit with her. And I have a cousin that I visit. We sit like 20 feet away, and her dog was the conduit between us. So actually, Maddie was the first living, breathing being that I hugged before I was able to reconnect with my kids. So she's a chocolate lab, and she kept running back and forth between us. And this muddy, dirty dog jumped into my lap, and I was not about to let her go. So I got to cuddle with Maddie. So if there are animals in your life, you can do that. If there are people that you're used to spending time with at a socially distanced gathering, you can do that.
What are some of the other ways that we can fill ourselves up with joy?
Okay. Well, first of all, decide for yourself what lights you up from the inside and turns you into a human sparkler. That's what I encourage people to do. And for some people, it's art. For some people, it's music. Some people, it's meditation, yoga, gardening, dancing, drumming. What else? Painting, sculpting, baking, whatever your creative outlet is, do that, because that's going to fill you up. I encourage people to hug themselves and rock. I encourage people to remember somebody in their lives when they were a child, perhaps, that loved them enough to hold not hold their pain.
How can people find out more about you and your work?
Thank you. I have a website. It's www.optimistical, OPTI-MYSTICAL.com. And where that name came from was I had a dream that again, I have a lot of dreams where messages come through and the voice said, you're not just an optimist, you're an optimistic who sees the world through the eyes of possibility. So that's my website. There's a form on there that people can make requests for whatever services I offer. And I'm on Facebook under Edie Weinstein, EDIEWEINSTEIN. Those are the two, that's the place that I'm the most visible in the world.
We have been speaking about how to achieve happiness with the Hug Lady, Edie Weinstein. We'll be right back with our next guest. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I didn't start studying dream work until about 10 years ago. And I didn't take it up because I saw it as a great way to make money. I did it because this work reflects my values. It gives me great joy to help someone understand their dreams. And since I've stepped into this role, I've had some of the happiest moments of my life. Why am I telling you all this now? Well, my guest, Katrine Horn, has taken a similar path. She calls herself a former professional people pleaser, and it took her a long time to realize that her sense of value came from who she is, not what she does. And now she helps people over 50 find their femininity and worthiness through her femininity formula. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Katrine.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I'm thrilled to be talking to you and to our audience.
Oh, well, thank you. Katrine, I had a guest on a few weeks ago who spoke of women over 50 as being in their second act. Do you see it that way too?
Well, what I see for women over 50 is that we have no longer got any time to lose, right? So we are so ready to have everything that we desire take place. We are ready to experience what we've been dreaming of all our lives. And I know that you're big into nighttime dreams and daytime dreams. So to me, self-love is about making your dreams and desires what is most important to you, really. And then you can add on the self-care, which is really the framework that allows you to make all that happen.
Yeah. Do you see older women as realizing that, life is a flow and a change, or do you see them thinking that, oh, well, things that worked for me when I was 20 are still going to work for me now?
Well, I believe that we're all here on a journey, on a spiritual journey. So the only thing we can be certain of is that we will be changing all the time. We can't stop time, and we can't really stop everything that happens to us. Like, we will go through menopause, right? Whether we want it or not. Our children will get older, whether we want it or not. So there's no point in wishing for this permanence of when we were 22, 29 or whatever to go on forever, because that is just unrealistic. We want to embrace what is really happening, and then we want to enjoy being 50 or over, is how I see it.
Unfortunately, though, too many older women get depressed when they look in the mirror and they realize that they're not 35 anymore, don't have the body they have at 35, or even the activity or the health that they've had when they were younger. How do we get over the belief that our outer image is what defines us, and what people see is what defines us, and that's all that matters?
Yeah, that is just a product really of our society, where we're focused really on youth. We love youth. We see youth in the advertisements. We see youth in the magazines, on the screen, everywhere. And that leads us, I mean, I say us as women over 50, to compare ourselves. Comparison is really something that is in the masculine formula, and I like to work with the femininity formula, which is, instead of comparison, we work with collaboration. So as soon as we're comparing ourselves to somebody, to something, as long as we are saying, oh, this person is more beautiful than me, or this person is thinner than me, or this person is more elegant than me, we know that we're not operating from our power source. We know that we are not in our femininity formula, because we're using comparison. And I'm 53, and if I start comparing myself to women on the screen who are 29, well, then I'm sure I'm going to lose, aren't I? I'm fighting a losing battle. Whereas if I allow myself to be the age I am, and I allow my wrinkles to take place, right? I allow all that wonderfulness to be. I can concentrate on who I am on the inside. And I believe that who I am on the inside spills out into who I am on the outside. So I really don't have to be comparing myself. I don't have to be using a lot of beauty products or anything like that. I can let myself be me. And if I integrate my sexuality, if I integrate how I can be me, how I can be looking my best, right? If I throw out my old rags, if I stop wearing sneakers and a big sweatshirt where you can't really see my shape, well, that way I can actually allow myself to be to feel a lot better about myself, because the thing about clothes is that obviously that gives a signal out to the outside world about who I am, but the signal goes inside too. So if I put on lovely clothes, if I do my hair up, well, then I feel so much better.
As you were talking, I kept thinking about how, I'm in the baby boom generation. And when we were younger, the media was all about building us up. We were the youth, the youth rebellion, the youth excitement, we were going to change the world. And it was all about the youth culture. And because before our generation, nobody talked about a youth culture. So we were kind of the first generation to have that label put upon us. And I think it sort of carries through as we got older, keep thinking about that and keep thinking, well, we must keep looking young. We must, chase everything that talks about being young and being, wrinkle free, or have everything that, be on all the killer diets so that we don't gain any ounces. So we look young, and, we wear the fashions that the younger people wear because, that will keep us looking young, which is sort of a false idea. But I also was thinking as you were talking that with age, wrinkles come with age, but with age also comes wisdom. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, if I can just respond to that, this wisdom is really what makes your life so much more enjoyable if you let it, right? But if you're fighting it, if you're not allowing your wisdom to come through to you, and if you're not really using it to shape your life, well, then I can only say yes, I can understand it's better to be young, because if you're not really benefiting from all the advantages of being older, well, then obviously you want to be younger.
Absolutely. And you've actually called life after 50 being a fantastic opportunity for a woman. So what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that, as I said earlier, we've got no time to lose. So that makes us very, very focused. Most of us don't have any children, like toddlers, to take care of. So that means we've liberated a huge amount of time. Many of us have got good careers. Many of us are making good money. So we're really in a place where we are able to enjoy life. Only we haven't really cultivated the faculty for enjoying life, because many of us have been operating in the zone where everybody else's needs were more important than our own. So we just need to re-educate ourselves into the beliefs that our needs, our desires, our dreams, if you wish, are really what is absolutely most important. And then once we realize that, once we really inhabit that knowledge, well, that means we can actually put all that wisdom you just talked about into realizing the dreams, into experiencing our desires, and really designing the life we wanted. Because we've been going through life saying, I want this, I want that. But these have perhaps been wants that came from a sort of scarcity syndrome, if I can call it like that. A want is like, if we want a swimming pool, we want a new car, we want a husband even, it's because we haven't got it. So everything we desire to create from a want perspective is going to be ultimately unsatisfactory, right? So now after 50, I mean, it could be 45, obviously, it could be 55, but when we are at this stage in life, we've got so much wisdom, as you said, that we are able to realize that having a swimming pool or a husband who takes care of us is not going to be fulfilling, right? It's not going to be what we really want. Those are just superficial wants. We can go so much deeper and actually access our real desires. And that is when it gets to be really juicy and exciting.
Yeah, well, I think so. One of the things that I've noticed is that so many people just, I'd say, like sleepwalk through life. You know, they're either doing what they were told to do, or doing what their friends do, or what their family does, and they never do make or take that deep dive into saying or answering that question, what do I want? Like you said. So how does a woman who maybe isn't quite sure how to answer that question, how does she start to find the answer to that question?
Yeah, well, most women don't know what they want or what they desire. So that is all very normal, because we've been asked to set our desires aside so that our children could have the lives that we want for them, so that whoever, our parents, I mean, we have been taking care of so many people all through life. And we have sort of been shutting our own desires down, because it's quite painful to have those desires present in your life and not listening to them, right? So we've had the choice of either listening to desires we felt we couldn't fulfill, or shutting them down. And we have chosen to shut them down often because that was actually the least painful solution, if you see what I mean. Because having our desires, being aware of our desires and not fulfilling them is actually very, very cruel, isn't it? So it's totally normal not to know what your desires are. Often we try to work out from our minds what we should be desiring, like we should be desiring that designer house, that architect built house at the seashore, or we should be desiring to travel the world, we should be desiring this or that. But those are not real desires. The real desires are so much more profound, I believe. And once we dive into that, as you say, once we stop the sleepwalking, once we become aware of what is really available to us, well, it's so much more than the swimming pool and the designer home, right? It is so much more profound. And I find that often this has got to do with love. It's got to do with contribution. It's got to do with connection and community. And all the rest are just really means to an end, if you see what I mean.
So how does a woman discover her worthiness, that inner part of her that is the part that really counts?
Yeah. So worthiness is not something you need to discover, because you already have it, right? It's a birthright. You were born worthy. Everybody is worthy. So you can just go ahead right now and decide that you are worthy. Sometimes some of us, and I used to be like that, I need to have a lot of self-care in place so that I remind myself that I am worthy, because I know that I am worthy, but sometimes it just slips my mind, if you see what I mean. It's sometimes we don't focus on that and we make other people's needs more important than our own. So for me, not to slip back in that place where I feel unworthy, I need to keep reminding myself that I am totally worthy by treating myself, by rewarding myself, by creating little or big pleasures for myself. So I make sure to have that self-care in place that keeps reminding me that actually I'm the most important thing to me on this planet.
How can people find out more about you and your work?
Oh, well, they can just go to my website, which is www.katrinehorn, KATRINEHORN.com. And I've got lots of free resources on my website. I've got some online courses that they can participate in. And if they would like some individual attention, that is, of course, also possible. But it all starts about with a deep dive, if I can call it like that, into my website, where you can see, well, really what speaks to you and where you want to start.
We've been speaking with Katrine Horn about femininity over 50. We'll be right back with our next guest. We bandy the word dream around all the time. Pay attention to your dreams, sweet dreams, your dream job. Dare to dream. And why is this? Well, dreams are our aspirations, our desires, what we want more than anything in the world. And for most of us, no dream is more important than finding our dream partner. But why is this so hard to make happen for a lot of people? Why do our dream dates often turn into nightmares? Well, we're going to discuss all this with my guest, Tom Zeman. He's the author of the new book, Creating the Relationship of Your Dreams, How to Manifest It from Fantasy to Reality. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Tom.
Such an honor, Debbie, to be on this program. You've had such amazing, articulate guests, experts, and I'm very humbled that I was asked, and I hope I can live up to their billing.
Oh, I'm sure you can, because I know you have a lot to say, and I want our listeners to hear some of that. So here we go. I tell you, Tom, I've always believed that it's hard, if not impossible, to find the relationship of our dreams if we don't love ourselves first. Would you agree with that?
You said the key thing. There's nothing magic about this, but if you do the steps, if you start with loving yourself, no matter how hard you think it can be, which is part of forgiveness, acceptance is the key. Doing the inner work and doing the outer work, then magical things happen. There's really no magic about it, but when you put into play, this is a universe, this is my, and again, I always like to do housekeeping before I do these. Anything I say, I never say I'm right on any interview I do. To anybody I talk to, these are right for me. They make sense for me. And if they make sense for you, awesome, you win. But guess what? If you vehemently disagree with anything I say in here, that's good, because you know yourself and you win. Yes, it's the self-love. And I'll speak to 15 to 100 people when I'm speaking or on stage or whatnot, or even one-on-one. I'll ask them this question. And I say, you don't have to answer it, but I like them to. I say, do you love yourself more than anybody in the world? And it's astounding. Some I get like shocked, some are, what? Some are like dough in a headlight. Really, it's not a narcissistic question. You had already shared a beautiful secret with me that it took you many years to get to that point. But once you did, Debbie, your life opened exponentially to the possibilities. So that if you can get to that point, and again, not narcissism, but to give that love, that's step one. Number two is doing the inner work, which we're going to talk more about as we go on, but then doing the outer work. You do those, and again, I believe, this is just my belief. I believe the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, doesn't care what you ask for. It returns what you ask for, whether you're asking, whether people do it in meditation or prayer, or a burning desire. But whatever you hold in your mind, I mean, this has been promulgated by the wisest men and women for eons, thousands of years. In the Bible, it says, ask and it shall be given, seek and you shall find. This is an old world truth. And again, the sad thing that you see, Debbie, and that I see, we see so many people that want, and they're going everywhere, clutching for straws, scratching, but they don't know what it is. They know they want something, but they don't know what it is or really how to ask for it.
Isn't it true that anger is also the death knell for many relationships?
Oh, it destroys, Buddha said it best, said it beautifully 2,800 years ago, and he said, you will not be punished for your anger. You'll be punished by it. Holding anger in, he also said, was that like drinking poison and hoping that the other person dies. It is a poison. It is a destroyer. And the saddest truth is that, there's a power to it. The 30 seconds that you go off on someone and you say your mind can destroy a 30-year relationship. So it's really a question of, here's a beautiful question. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
One of the other things that you talk about is the idea of it's not a good thing to fall in love with love. Explain that. What do you mean by that?
It took me many years to figure this out, doing a lot of online dating and not meeting the person. And all of a sudden, Miss Right, which happened to be Miss Right now, as things turned out, came into your life. And you have these expectations of what they are without meeting the person. You're falling in love with the power of ether. You've heard of love sickness. That's what it is. They can say one thing and all of a sudden you're in the depths of despondency. You can say another thing and you're at the heights of the Colossus of Zeus, way up at the top. I mean, the highest highs, the lowest lows. And love is a beautiful thing. I look at love as a multifaceted gemstone. And there's so many aspects of it. The real love, the unconditional love, which Gandhi and Jesus Christ would talk about, something that very few of us, and I'm going to pound my chest and say, I'm not there. But really to get to that level of altruism and to get that, because when the relationship, when you meet that person, like I said, falling in love with love, meeting the person and go, I'm like, what is this? This is not my beautiful girlfriend. This is not my beautiful life. I mean, it's like, what happened? And it wasn't being honest with myself. It wasn't giving the other person a chance to live up to my expectations, my fault. Because the relationship is going to be exciting in the beginning. That's what we love. We want excitement, in my opinion. Excitement, that newness, that nuances, the new sex. But after all that's done, the realness of the relationship steps in. That to me is where it's the tipping point. That is where you can take it to the next level, or what it goes down. There's always people who are always looking for something. It's for guys, especially. Guys are going to hate me in this book because I'm calling us out. I'm calling me out. It's the conquest, which has nothing to do with that love. You get to the point of that self-love, and I think a lot of these games go away. Not always.
So, Tom, let's say you have done all the inner work and you're now ready to find a person to love. So tell me, what's the first step you need to take?
I'm a big proponent of dating sites. I have been, and there's some good ones. I liked Match, and there's plenty of fish, and there's good ones. Just find what works for you. But when you do your profile, use a current photo. Don't use one from like 15 years ago, because immediately if you ever meet them, or if you go on a Zoom meeting like this, they're going to look at that photo and then look at you, and suddenly your relationship or what you're beginning really starts off on an awkward foot, or one just not based on truth. And I think I'd much rather be hurt with truth than lied to and find out down the line. So if you don't have, like, aside from a great photo, have it professionally done, or have someone can take some nice photos. If you take 100 on your cell phone, you'll get one that you'll like. A flattering photo. The next thing is, when you write your profile, don't write it highfalutely. Don't have someone else write it. Write it from the heart, and write it what you really believe, not what you think that the person will want to hear, but what you really enjoy. You might be surprised. People might like you for who you are. I've been telling people for years, find your tribe. Now, here's the next part. Tell everyone, I'm single, I'm looking. And don't judge by a look. You'd be surprised at how many times I've been wrong by just judging people by the way they look. And when I talk to them, I go, wow, a freaking idiot. I could have had a great friendship. Even if it doesn't turn out to be romantic, you got a friend or someone maybe that you're going to share some wonderful things with. You just never know. Now, you might know within the first 15 minutes, don't drag it on. Again, just say, hey, I really like you. It's probably not what you want to hear. I'd like to be friends, but I just don't know if this is going anywhere. Be upfront, and it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game, and just be open to it. It's one thing a lot of people say, well, I'm single and well, are you looking for somebody? Yes. Are you willing to go out and do the work? And then they don't do it. You know, it's the 1% inspiration that they have. Hey, I'm tired of being alone, when they haven't yet figured out, Debbie, something that you know very well. And you told me this, and I love this about you, is that you said you finally figured out late in life, if I remember correctly, the difference of being lonely and being alone. Okay.
If there is one quality, if you just had to name one quality that you value most in a good, loving relationship, what would it be?
Different for everybody. Now, if you're asking me personally, God, there's so many of them, and I touch upon this in the book as well. Laughter is a wonderful point. You made an earlier wonderful point that, looks don't last forever. Now, there's got to be some attraction initially. You're not going to be with a dog per se, unless that, they have just such a marvelous personality. There's got to be something there, but looks don't last forever. We're not going to be young and pretty forever. Was it Karen? There's that old song that says, who'll be turning you on? I will. When you get old and your looks are gone. Captain and Tennille, or was it the Carpenters, something like that. So it's that, to develop that friendship, a friendship. Laughter and friendship really can help a relationship for a long. Sometimes people, especially if we're getting up in age, it's not even the sexual thing. I mean, to me, that's important. I mean, I'm still a fairly young guy. I'm going to be 58 years old tomorrow. Thank you very much. But it's companionship. It's a big thing. So friendship, finding your friend. Now, you got to be your own friend first.
I've been married a long time. And I will admit, we've had ups and downs, because you can't be married for as long as we have and not have ups and downs, just the nature of life itself. But I would say, the thing that obviously, there's a love there, a deep love there. But the thing that I always say, the thing is, my husband always makes me laugh. And we have a good time with that. And so that, if you ask me, that would probably be one of my top qualities.
Laughter has a lot to do with your health too. There was Norman Cousins wrote a wonderful book years ago called Anatomy of an Illness, where he was supposedly, and I'll paraphrase here this real fast for lack of time, but he had supposedly an incurable cancer. He had 6 months to live, and he cured himself, according to the book, with laughter. He was watching the Three Stooges and a lot of the funny programs, and then he wrote about it. And so there's something to be said, a physiological change, the releasing of serotonin into our body, healing properties that laughter and those feelings have to do with. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a PhD, but there's something to be said about that. And I think you can find scientifically proof that actually is beneficial. And the key point too, before I forget here, it's being able to laugh at yourself. When you do something that's funny, just let it go. I mean, a lot of people won't try anything, Debbie, because they're afraid of how that they're going to look, right? They won't try roller skating, something they've always wanted to do, because they're afraid of how they'll be seen, or ice skating or painting or anything, because of what people will say. Screw that. You have to crawl before you can walk, and you have to be able to look at yourself in a laughable way. People are going to love you more, that real person, if you can. And again, we've talked about the difference between comedy and tragedy. Comedy is when it happens to you. That's someone else.
And the person who sees you laughing at yourself may find that adorable and attractive. And there you have it. But on that note, we can't believe we're just about out of time. So quick final question, Tom. Yeah. How can people find out about the book and about you?
Thank you so much. Facebook is a wonderful way to get a hold of me. Look for Tom Ziemann, Ziemann. Got 3 books on Amazon right now. Just go to Amazon.com and look for Thomas. I wanted to the indubitably Thomas Z-Man. There's 3 books. There's one on relationships, there's one on anger, and there's one about a layman's guide to spirituality called The Department of Zenitation.
We've been speaking with author Tom Zeman on finding your dream relationship. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector Weisman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.